How's it going, neighbors? This is Ed with etrailer.com, and we're taking a look at the Thule Ladder Rack system on our 2022 Chevrolet Colorado. So the rack itself is constructed of aircraft grade aluminum, and it's powder coated. That's going to hold up against the elements and protect you against corrosion. As far as the capacity, it's a whopping 800 pounds. So that's a lot of weight that you can put on this TracRac system. You have included load stops that are adjustable to slide over to lock down your loads. And also something I thought was cool about their load stops, at the very top, you have a tie down point. The bar itself is 65 inches across. It's 4 inches wide and 1.5 inches thick. So that's going to work not only for your ladders, but it also would work well for any sports and rec items like kayak carriers, bike carriers, and also if you have something along the lines of a cargo basket or cargo box. Our crossbar has T-track slots on the top and bottom, and one nice feature on the top, there's actually a ridge that's designed to help reduce wind noise. So it'll help reduce the whistle that you experience with these types of products. Coming down, you're 26.25 inches tall, so that's going to work for most things, and it does elevate you above the height of the bed. So if you have longer items that go beyond your bed, you can actually extend it forward. Going down to the pads, you actually have 2 clamps that are the same powder coated aluminum with a nice bolt here that's going to fasten down and clamp everything in. Underneath your upright, you actually have a pad that's going to give a measure of protection to the top of your bed. From the bottom of the bed to the top, you're right at 46 inches. The space between the bars in this position is right at a little bit over 4 feet on center to the bars themselves. One thing to consider is the fact that you are going to be limited to where you can mount your base plates based on the clamps for your bed top cover. As far as the spacing that you have from the front of the cab, the back of the cab to the front of the ladder rack system is right at 13 inches from the bottom of the foot. With the overall height and these nice tall uprights, you don't encounter any issues as far as blocking your back window. So you're gonna have a pretty unobstructed view, and it'll allow you to still get those bigger items above the line of sight of your cab. Installation is pretty easy, but there are no tools included in the kit, so you will need to grab a 7/32 bit, a 3/16 bit, and a measuring tape in order to make sure you have everything for your installation. Now we're going to start our installation, and I just wanted to give a kind of an install note that I've observed with the installation. The powder coat was actually pretty thick on the inside of the threads here, and we actually had to clean it out with a bit on the end of our drill to get that powder coat off. After that, the installation went up pretty smooth, but it was kind of a headache and something to be aware of that you may have to deal with your setup. So I'm going to start by getting these bolts started for our clamps. I'm just going to hand tighten them to right at the ridge, just a little bit above, enough for where your plate wouldn't shift around. I'm going to do that with both of these guys. We're going to assemble our upright, and that's just 2 parts. You're going to have the actual upright and then the foot for it. That's going to point towards the cab, and you want your label to point away from the cab, from the bed. You're just going to use 2 of your longer bolts. I'm just going to start them, and they already have their thread locker on them, so that's going to help it stay in place. Once you assemble, I'm just going to use my socket wrench to fasten it down. Now we're going to install the T-track bolts for the top of our upright, and that's just a nut and a bolt that threads through the top of the bracket. Just want to make sure you have a clearance for the nut to slide into the track. So you just want to, loosely tighten your hardware in. Your next step is taking your upright and just making sure you have that correct position. You're going to want the upward angle to point towards the inside of the bed, and then we're going to use our final 2 bolts to fasten it to the top, and it just bolts in the same way that it does on the bottom. Now we're going to position our upright on the side of our bed. You're going to use the included pad to prop it down to give you a layer of protection for your upright, and then you just put your base plate on top of it. Now we're going to take the clamps we already pre-assembled, and we're going to hop in the bed and install them. Getting a measurement of the positioning of your foot is going to be important, so I already have it spaced out with the driver's side, the passenger side. And now we're just going to take our clamp and we're going to get that in position. So we're going to make sure we get the bolt fed underneath the lip. We're just going to hook it over. And now we're going to take the plate that presses against the top of the bed and position it over our bolt. Now you want to be aware of any clips that hold on the bed top cover, because they can prevent you from getting in position. All right, and now we're going to fasten down our connectors, just being cautious of over tightening, and we're going to move on to the next step. Thule did a really good job of making it easy to set up. The bottom of your bar is going to have these extra grooves, and you're going to have the hole for your bolt for your end cap all pointing downward. So this is going to align with the track so your T-nut can fall into this smaller, taller slot, and you'll be able to connect it that way to your crossbars. So I grabbed Matt here to give me a hand. He's going to support the bar on the back while I load it on the track. There we go. And we're just going to feed it across. There we go. Yeah, it looks like I gotta loosen this a little bit. So we're gonna loosen our nut so it'll fit on the track. We're gonna do the same here. There we are. And I'm just gonna check my measurements for my overhang, and then we'll fasten it down on the bottom. All right, I'm just gonna go through, and I've tightened all of my bolts, and now we're going to put on our load stop and end cap. In the package, you're going to have to assemble your load stops. So you're just going to start with this T-bolt and your knob, and just screw it right straight through. It's a pretty straightforward installation. And I'm just going to slide this through and just pass it all the way over to the other side. Now we're going to put our end cap on to keep everything nice and tight where we would like it to be. So you're gonna actually feed this through. It only goes one way. And you're just gonna fasten it down using your included Allen key. And with our load stops and end caps installed, our TracRac system is installed, and you can see that it's super sturdy on top of the truck. I would say if I had to point out anything that was a con, there was some quality issues with the hardware with powder coat overspray inside of the threads. Once we resolved that, the installation was super easy and was pretty much a breeze to install. If you're looking for something that had maybe better hardware with similar setup, I would say our Flint Hill Goods aluminum ladder rack would be a great alternative. But overall, with the black powder coat, the Thule TracRac is a solid addition to your truck. So again, this is Ed here with etrailer.com, taking a look at the Thule Ladder Rack system on our 2022 Chevrolet Colorado.